So as I think desperately about how to build this place and how to reactivate it, I think about crowdfunding options. I think about creating workshops and systems that might allow for people to pay to come here for an interesting experience. And people pay a lot for some of those. Perhaps eco building or permaculture school. Yoga teacher training, language training, perhaps just a all-around awesome experience. And as I think about who I need here on a team to run it, I think each person needs to be producing value for the space. Even though I get contacted by people all the time that don't want to contribute monetarily, which has been frustrating. It makes me feel like I have no value. It's an insult. I remember one woman who wanted to come here as a volunteer. I turned her down. She didn't want to pay anything. And she said, well, how much does it really cost you to have me there? And the thing is, it's a huge amount. She doesn't appreciate that. It's a lot. So it takes all my time. I have a lot of sunk costs. That's an economics term. If you don't know it, learn it. You know, working all my life to make enough resources to buy this place. And then 21 years of my life taking care of the forest, building things, building local relationships, which have massive value. Like just buying land and trying to create something isn't good enough. You have to build good reputation among people. So that's one of the values I have along with this property. And so I think, putting a number on it, I'm going to say each person should be generating about $2,000 a month in value. Now, whether they're contributing that directly or not is not the important thing. And it may vary during the year. Let's say there was a yoga teacher here and they were doing yoga teacher training. It could be that they have a season in which they have a larger income and through their program. I saw a yoga teacher online. She seemed pretty cool, very buff, like way more than me. And she was looking for a job, and my area is one of the areas she's looking in that she'd be open to. But she wants it to be a job. And I was kind of thinking I want somebody to run a program, but maybe I just needed to find all the programs I can envision and then just pay them. And because of the nature of the project, I can probably run it through a nonprofit. And so I've been avoiding creating everything myself because it does seem overwhelming. And so I've thought about partnering with people. But the truth is, most people, including me, are not really good at or motivated to create such programs because there's huge amounts of work involved. When people think about being a yoga teacher, they don't think about creating their whole program or permaculture teacher or running a farm or something. They just think about the fun part, really. And the hard part is much greater. It takes far more time to set it up. But I guess maybe that's what I have to do, is take a leadership role that most people are not willing to take, and then create it, define it, make the web pages, and then figure out how to pay people to fit into that, who will then create income for it. It's not the model I really prefer. I would rather gather leaders who can create their own program using this property that have a similar philosophy. But one nice thing about essentially an employee relationship is that it's expected that that job may end. Of course, people get real frustrated when you get rid of them in any case. But that might make it more clear, you know, because I'm expecting people to bring in money and like do their own crowdfunding and or set up their own program, and then I can help them with marketing it with the people I have contact with. But it's really a question of who does the real work. And you might say the real work is doing the job part, like being the teacher of something or something, but the real work is in envisioning it, creating the space for it, the infrastructure, doing the marketing for it. Otherwise, it can't exist, you know? And most people don't have the property to do what I'm envisioning. The many projects I'm envisioning. And so that's a huge hindrance for them. And understandably so, because they would have to rent a space like this. And to rent it would cost this colossal amount of money. I don't know, like, what percentage of property's value you could expect to pay in rent. But, you know, I've got many cabins. The space is perfect for camping as well, and it would be very, very easy to purchase glamping structures to rapidly increase housing. Most of the year is excellent. It's a little chilly in the winter. It can get down to freezing almost. Rarely, but it does. I've seen ice here in like water in a wheelbarrow a couple times a year. No, sorry, a couple times in the last 21 years. So it's not that common to have freezes. I still have to invest a lot more in infrastructure. And that's another thing people forget, is that if I'm actually going to make this thing work, I need to not just have people here at cost, at the minimum that I can possibly, you know, have them here for. I need to be making enough so that I'm building things, and I have emergencies actually I have to deal with where right now my fire breaks are weak. I mean, they don't exist. They've grown over. And I have a whole bunch of other bulldozer work to do and restoring those and then improving other spots. And I want to make building sites, and it's still a very small percentage of the land. In some cases, I need to put in fencing to keep like my dogs out of town. There's just, you know, I mean, I can think of $200,000 worth of infrastructure improvements that could happen right away. And some of that's housing. Although a housing program, in theory, would pay for the buildings itself. And I have teachers for that, so I think one of the problems is it's been so easy for me to just ignore the world, and you know, I'm comfortable enough, not, well, less and less, especially I'm a little bit injured right now, in addition to the other injury, which was more extreme, but this one, like last night, was just painful. And maybe I could actually take a painkiller at night, because I'm not moving around or trying to do shit. Like taking a painkiller and then going and doing stuff would be very bad, because I would be doing things that would increase my damage. And what I really got to do is lay in bed for like 2 weeks. Although that's not good either, because I got to exercise my body, and I'm going to improve my diet. I did bring a packaging for something I buy, a sauce I buy, in my backpack here, and I'm going to go to town and fix up my supply chain. But another part of that is that there are some small stores in the nearest town that do sell some fresh fruits and veggies, which I never buy and never eat. And so, you know, I got a lot to do just to fix me. Today I was investigating cell phone signal amplifiers, since I had a conversation with a guy who might come here, a couple, and apparently they both use their cell phones for a lot of the stuff they do. So that's another cost. Internet cost, it's not a huge cost, Starlink, but it's really required. And the thing is that if everybody was really understood when they come here that it's not just, oh, you get to live for free in the forest, you've won the hippie lottery, you know. If they really understood the desperation to survive and also the need to build this system, and if I could recruit people who would happily pay that. Now you might say $2,000, oh my God, that's a huge amount. Well, it's not to some people. I have friends who bring home, you know, $10,000 a month after taxes. And they could work here online, living in a better place with better people, paying less rent. Oh, actually the $2,000 would be pretty high. So they would be paying rent, but you know, right now with inflation, rents are extremely high in other places. And of course, most people wouldn't want to live here. Like I just contacted somebody who sounded nice, and I said, hey, you know, you're looking at my area, and is this of interest to you? And they had a nice short response of, well, no, I'd like to be in the city with museums and events and restaurants and everything. And I said, that's great. Good luck to you. I totally understand. But for some people, living like this with a selected group of people would be a dream. And that can't be a group of people selected to pay as little as they possibly can so that this place can't grow or thrive, so that it fails. That's one of the basic problems in most intentional communities. And their vision is, oh, let's have everybody live for free, you know? And it's like, I know there's no such thing as fucking free. There's no free at the hardware store. There's no free internet. There's no free food. Even food you grow is not even close to free. That's real labor. And many people think they want to do that, but they're usually wrong. They have a very different concept of what that means. So I like this idea of coming up with a fucking number finally and just saying, well, this is what it costs to be here. And that would allow me to rapidly take a place that's already pretty great, right? And I have experience making it a great place, full of activities. One of the, you know, kind of models for it is an ongoing festival. Well, I hate to say that because festivals have a lot of flaws I don't like. Usually they're ecological disasters. They have consent problems, legal issues, drug issues. They're short term. They don't build anything of lasting value. So, you know, sometimes I use analogies that don't make any sense. But, you know, that's why analogies are always imperfect. So, I like the idea of putting a price on it. And of course, that can change over time, depending on what someone is bringing in other ways. But starting out with people who believe in the vision, who want to live a different way, this way, and would like to pay $2,000 a month. Now, this is 2025. For me, that's a huge amount of money, and it might be to you as well. For some people, it isn't. Especially when I talk about recruiting remote workers who could all be supporting each other and helping each other get jobs if they're freelancing, or get corporate jobs even. You could get a manager who lives here, and they could, you know, be hiring people for their team, partly because they're a cultural fit to live here. And that makes the team not a remote team. They're remote overall, but they're actually working together and in constant communication. And of course, I think I like software designers and programmers than making their own projects without investors where they benefit entirely from it. So I've thought so much about how individuals can profit from being here that I've managed to not be successful because I haven't taken care of the place first. I haven't taken care of me first. I've been last. When there's people here, I'm like a slave. I'm on board for every duty. I can barely sleep. I've had to hire people to go to a campfire to make sure nobody's doing something stupid, because I don't know anyone else there. And I remember one time I hired a couple adolescents, and their only job was to observe and watch and, you know, laugh and play and participate. But, you know, their only job was to run and get me if anything went wrong. Like somebody fell in the fire or whatever the hell else. Or somebody was getting unruly. Which doesn't really happen because my invites are generally pretty good. I've been pretty careful. Although I have had public invites where I had a bunch of people I didn't know at all. Now, if I could collect enough people who were paying at that level, that also supports having more internal work of workers who are actually being paid. And so there can be different economic relationships with each person. But unless I have a healthy growing system with an income, I can't do that. Now, it is possible that if I can build up YouTube channels that are popular, which is a possibility. I just got to 1,000 subscribers on my new channel, and I have enough watch hours now, and so I can now monetize that channel. And then if I do crowdfunding to improve my infrastructure enough, I can invite people if I'm making any money off the channel, which is very hard to do actually. But I have a space and a vision that could result in something pretty dang exciting. And so it is conceivable that it could work. I'm pretty tired of trying. You know, I see videos of me from before my accident saying kind of what I say now about, like, well, here's how I could reopen it all. And the truth is, this accident happened like 6 years ago. Set me back really far. Like very, very far. I broke both legs. I couldn't walk. It took me 8 months to get home. And even then I couldn't really function very well. I could barely take a shower. I was afraid I was going to fall over in it. I broke both femurs in 2 places each. Pretty bad. And that's the biggest bone in the human body. And I know there's some assholes out there who are like, well, if that happened to me, I'd just jump right back and be fine. And it's like, well, why don't you give it a shot? Go for it, dumbass. Of course, I have to fix my general misanthropy, but my method of doing that is going to be to screen people better and make sure everyone here is absolutely astounding, and to write up very clear standards of behavior. And unfortunately, you have to write those up. It would be nice if you could just say, everybody should be really nice and aware and kind and stuff. But unfortunately, probably all of us, we have massive blind spots or forms of selfishness where we do not act in good ways towards others, even if we mostly do. I know I have them. And if you don't know yours, well, you're probably not very self-aware. That might sound insulting, but it's just realistic. You know, for anyone that exists, there's somebody out there who fucking hates them, and with good reason. Perhaps. But perhaps if I could get people who are, you know, 80% good and who are making, this is the reason I have a written social contract. A lot of people would be like, why don't you just let it grow organically? Why don't you just let people be who they are and stuff? And it's like, no, people are fucking horrible. Have you ever run an organization? Have you ever created an event and then been open to the public and had people seek it out in order to use it, in order to damage people, and therefore damage your reputation and the space, put you in legal risk, put other people in physical danger? That's the actual, real pragmatics of being open to the public. So if you're idealistic, you think I sound like an asshole, a controlling one who wants everybody to be the same or something, which is definitely not true. But I require everyone have the same base set of ethics. What those are is really hard to figure out, because I'd like to have as few requirements as possible. But when I say vague things like be aware and be nice to others, it simply isn't good enough. We have to break down what that exactly means. What does it mean to be a good person or not? Damn this trail. Fuck. So I believe in cultural design. I believe it's important that we make social contracts and that everybody here can then trust that everybody else here has signed a certain social contract. Then we have a basis upon which to say what is right and what is wrong. Like I had one time, there were really nice people here, and one of the guys that came dominated every conversation. And it was really rude. He did not have the self-awareness to understand that he was trying to talk like 60% of the time in a group of 12 or 15 people. And whether what he was saying or not had value is a different matter, but that's not a position he gets to take. It was an older guy, and he just thought he had this great wisdom to impart. And he really wanted to come back for other events. He had a great time. People were relatively polite to him. People did try and, deflect him a little bit and say, well, let's hear what other people have to say about that for a while and things like that. But the guy's just too unaware. And of course, he's a spiritual guy, right? He's really into pseudoscientific shit, health stuff, and, touch points, Reiki stuff, made up crap. And so those are the most unself-aware people, or spiritual people. They think they are God. And although I've told people you are God and stuff, it's a funny thing to say. It's a metaphor. Nobody is actually that fucking important. So that's a minor case. But somewhere in that long list of stuff, of various social agreements, one of them is don't dominate the social space. Don't think your view is more important than everyone else's. Because everybody thinks they're right. I do. Of course I do. If I didn't think I was right, I would change my view about something. And I already question myself a huge amount, which is really wonderful. It's a good thing. It's a good attribute. But some people have never done that. They just know that, what they know is true, and anything else is just someone who's ignorant, needs to pray more, and is uneducated or deluded, despite them having views that are based on their whole experience in their life. It isn't your life. I just had a guy tell me that in the area where I live, there's no horses. Because they visited the area, but they probably went to tourist spots in the city. And, the town nearest me is 400 people. There's horses all over walking in the street. And this guy was like, you're a liar. Well, it's 21 years. The horses look like they're real. To me, I have videos of me petting them. I have videos of them walking in the street. I got bit by one. It was either a mule or a horse. I forget which. I was totally drunk. It was at a big party. And it was funny because the guy told me right beforehand and told my friend and me, I wasn't listening at all. And he said, this horse bites. And I was like, oh, okay. I tried to pet the horse anyway, and it bit me. It was funny. But this kind of vision that I have, the kind of things I'm saying, would be very objectionable to a great many people because they come from really locked in cultures and they're seeking freedom. And what I want them to do is find that freedom, but through social agreements. Does that make sense to you? I hope it does. If you come here, it better. And I guess I could set up events where, people use part of the land They never get into the rest of it. And they still have agreed to some things, but then they're tested. And if they kind of end up being assholes, even if they're nice in some ways, but if they're really not compatible, then they don't get invited back. But I don't even want to get people to get that close. So it's a real trick for me. It's the hardest problem I've ever faced. It's also a problem you face in your life as you figure out who's going to be in my life and who isn't. That's really hard. And a lot of people feel like they're stuck with the people that they have. Maybe it's their biological family. Maybe it's who is around them geographically. But, if you're in the wrong place, move. Like I've seen questions people post online like, I'm gay and I live in this Muslim country and I don't know how to tell my family and I don't feel safe, should I move? And my answer is, hell yeah, you should move. Now, it's very difficult to move, I realize, but your culture is fundamentally incompatible with who you are. They don't like you, want you, and the only way you're going to survive there is by lying and bowing down to them. So that, I suppose, is true here in some sense, that people have to make an agreement, and I guess they have to bow down to that agreement. But rather than say it that way, I would rather just find people who find those agreements agreeable. They want those agreements voluntarily. And so this for them would be heaven. It would be a great place to be. And if everybody's kind of on the same page in a lot of ways, so much conflict just disappears. Because if you just get a bunch of random people together and then they have to survive and accomplish things and live, and they're living together for a long time, you're just going to get these cliques, you're going to get power struggles, you're going to get lies, you're going to get bullying, and it's just the nature of humans. So this is my solution for that. This is my thoughts on how you form an intentional community, intentional families, and they don't all have to be the same, and different parts of the land can have different social rules entirely. In fact, they would. An area that's kid heavy, that's family oriented, might be very different than one for retired people who don't want to be around kids, although mixing kids and old people is actually a really good idea in many cases. Because traditionally, sometimes both are kind of lonely and could use the wisdom and life of the other, the spark of life that children have and the wisdom that some old people have, certainly any that I have in my life, And so we could set up different spaces for different people, but that would not be to divide them entirely. There would be plenty of crossover spaces and third spaces. There's this term third space. If you don't know it, look it up. But I believe most space should actually be third space. Less of it should be that you have to pay something to be there. Less of it should be that well, you should have more open space and park space and stuff like that. Yar.